There are over 150 unique cards in Critter Country. Let's build a deck together. So in Critter Country, we have 168 cards in total, and that's just so far. So building a deck can be a little bit overwhelming. Thankfully, I am here to guide you through the process. We're going to take a look at the cards and see what works best with the little idea I have in mind here. Here, let's go ahead and shift back. So, there are 6 different types in Critter Country: feral, cosmic, dreaded, telluric, aquatic, and phlogistic. So there are 6 different types to choose from, and there are well over a dozen different species as well. So the way adapting works in Critter Country, you can go from 1 to 2 to 3, whether it's the same species or same type. So either way, you can adapt into the next species. You can adapt using anything, but that's how you keep the inheritables at the bottom, really. So the best way to really guide your deck building process is trying to build a unique critter. I'm going to start by taking a look at the dreaded type today. So there's going to be a lot of sneaky ways to get damage in, a few things to play with wounds. Let's go ahead and take a look. I think I'm already leaning towards the squonk line here. It's going to be Creep, Croink, and Pork Orc. So they're going to deal a lot with graveyard recursion, or specifically critters getting KO'd and sent to your discard pile. So let's play with that idea. I've got a fun little return from graveyard deck that I'd like to play with. So specifically with Pork Orc, his 3rd stage ability allows us to bring any critter from our discard pile back into our hand. But more so, he gets to deal damage equal to that critter's cost. So that's where we can early on maybe use our 3rd stage critters as like kind of a pseudo cost for some stuff, maybe like a ontological shock or something. But right now we're going to focus here on the phenomenon Night of the Blood Moon. So Night of the Blood Moon is going to let us deal 4 damage to a friendly critter if you do Unpat 1 research. If that critter's KO'd, you're going to gain 2. So this is a really nice kind of ramp card, especially for a Dread deck, which is going to be dealing some self-damage. So let's go ahead and pop that in here. So we're going to make a deck of 20 unique cards, 2 copies each. We're at 4 right now. So now we're looking at another line that we can bring in. Kind of want to take a look at other dreaded types. We can also look at other squonks. So we can look at the Melta line here. There's going to be a lot of Scorch. Don't think we really want to play too much with Scorch. That can be really, really fun if you're building for it. But Lipig here seems to be maybe a better fit. Specifically, his 1st stage can be KO'd without giving your opponent a point, as long as that happens outside of a tussle. So you may notice that's going to work really well with Night of the Blood Moon as we kind of put this into our deck here. Now moving on, we're going to take a look at another Squonk line. We're going to take a look at Skeek. So Skeek can put out some wounds, and he destroys curios. Usually a pretty good addition for a deck, but I don't think we're going to deal too much with curio manipulation, at least in this one. So we might want to focus a little more on maybe getting another Dread critter in here. After all, we can adapt into Dread critters as well, so that's going to give us some flexibility. So right away, my brain is going to Oscurio's line because Kill has this nice little move here. So Kill is actually going to deal a lot more damage if he basically witnessed a critter going into the discard pile. So as long as he's on the field when a critter enters the discard pile on the same turn, he'll deal more damage using his move. So looking at another Dread critter possibly. Taking a look at the Jackalope line here for Maestranil. He's got some pretty good abilities, his top one being really good. All damage dealt is increased by 1. That does mean all damage, though, so that's going to be, it's a little hard to work around. If you're not building specifically around that, that might not be the best for our purposes right now, anyways. Alright, so we've got 13 cards in total. Really looking forward to putting this Kill to work. that pay move is really going to help us out here. So looking at another dread critter rather than a squonk, I think Moth Umbra is going to help us out with that reversal of speed. This ability might be a little overpowered, but we're still testing some cards out here. So we're going to see how Moth Umbra does here, because we have some slower critters, particularly the fully adapted squonk lines. The 3s and 4s going to want them to go first if possible. So now we're going to take a look at our curios and phenomenons. So in particular, Lost Locket is going to be a pretty good card to bring in. That's going to be a dreaded curio. So Lost Locket is going to let us get a discarded critter back. So remember, we're going to be putting a lot of critters in the discard pile in order to trigger especially Curiosakill's effect. So this will let us get them back, especially if we Night of the Blood Moon something that maybe was on low health, we can then maybe bring it back out that same turn. So that's going to be pretty useful. Drag from the Depths, kind of the same idea. That's going to be a general all-purpose bring something back from the dead card. So pairing this over here with Ontological Shock, draw 3, discard 2, we're going to have some card draw and maybe be less fearful of that card draw. Normally Ontological Shock can end up putting you at a disadvantage, but we're going to have the ability to get those cards back, so that actually puts us in a much better spot than we would be normally. So we need 4 more cards to fill out this card list here. And let's take a look at some curios. We're going to need to up our damage for sure, but now that we have Night of the Blood Moon, we can kind of try and look for ways to use those resources that we have. So we definitely want to get some way to get critters out there. Secret tunnels are a really sneaky way to do that. They can come out with a speed boost, so if we don't have Moth Umbra quite yet, we might be able to get something going a little quicker than usual. That can be a really, really good card to play, especially when your opponent doesn't expect you to bring something out. So because we're going to be putting critters in the discard pile, and most likely one from our field, Lost Tape is going to be a great card to add in. If we can get both of those out and then they end up in our resources, we are going to be super set for the next turn, be able to get anything we need to out there. Maybe even pop a Lost Tunnel into a Pork Orc or something. Acidic Vial is more of a general use card. You'll see later we kind of reconsider that addition. But that's always a good bet to put in if you're not sure what to add. Destroying a Curio is a very powerful effect, no matter what deck you're running. Can definitely change up your opponent's strategy. As you can see, we're really looking for some good curios here. So if we lose one of these, it's gonna really mess us up. So you can definitely play around that, but right now we're trying to figure out the best course of action. I think a little more card draw or card churn is probably the best way to go. That's why we're looking at Obscure Feather here, because the Feather is definitely really good at allowing us to discover, so we can look at the cards in the top of our deck and then rearrange them if we want to, allowing us to draw afterwards. It's a really good card to use in a pinch, and can really turn the game around if we need to. Feeling pretty good about that deck list, but I can't help but feel we're missing a Fisticuffs card. So Fisticuffs cards are cards that you can play during a tussle phase, and they're really, really useful because if your opponent declares a tussle, the defending player, quote-unquote, gets priority on playing any Fisticuff cards. So right now we're looking at cards like the Hum, which we're probably going to end up going with because it boosts Cosmic and Dread speed, which is, again, really, really useful in a pinch. These can really turn the tide of battle, because if your opponent is ready to fight and then suddenly your stuff is a little bit faster, well, they've already locked into the fight, so they're going to have to kind of hope they're doing doing the best that they can with that. So I think all of that considered, that's probably what we're going to go with for our deck list. We're going to grab a copy of the Hum here and probably replace Acidic Vial, just so we can get a bit of a fight advantage, because that's what a lot of decks are going to be having that we do not, which is the ability to kind of up our damage in a way that's not like card effect based. And there we go. There's our 20 card deck list. We're looking pretty good here. We've got 2 Squonk species, a Weird Bird, and a Mothman. Not too bad if I say so myself. So this is how I build decks. We're going to name this one. I like to name all of my decks, so I like to name them after what the concept that inspired them was. So here we're going to have Land of the Dead, specifically that one water scene where they come out of the lake and it's like, wait, what? I didn't know they could do that. And I think that's pretty fitting for this deck theme. At the very least, we're going to be having a lot of critters coming out of the depths and out of nowhere, hitting for pretty big damage and surprising our opponent. You can catch this deck in action on Friday and see how it fares against one of our starters. We'll see if it actually does what it's supposed to. Until then, stay safe.